Hey, what's going on, guys? How we doing? Matt Antonelli here. Hey, what's up, guys? Another day at the baseball field. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about the changeup. We've covered the fastball, we've covered the cutter recently and in the past. So check out the most recent videos and then go back, I think over a year ago at this point, and go check out those videos as well about fastball, cutter grips, and things of that nature. And today, like I said, we're going to cover the changeup and the grips, why it's effective, and the different ways we can manipulate forces in order for us to increase our effectiveness with the pitch. Now, the first thing we're going to cover is grips. Now, grips can vary. There really isn't a wrong way to throw a changeup, to be honest with you. It's very dependent on the pitcher, the way he moves, the arm angle, the size of his hand. Like, there are a lot of variables that actually come into play with what type of grip we're going to use. I know a lot of guys teach the circle change and they tell all their players to throw the circle change. That seems to be like the most standard changeup that everybody wants to teach and throw. But in reality, like, there's no wrong answer so long as we're applying more friction onto the baseball so it slows down relative to and compared to our fastball. So whether it's circle change, whether it's just wider grips with the fingers, like your fingers are more spread out, I really don't care which way you throw it, so long as we figure out what works best for you and your delivery and the size of your hand. The size of your hand plays a role in the type of grip that we use. Now, if I am going to give you one tip about grip, most changeups are either held in a 4-seam style or a 2-seam style here. So I'm holding a typical circle change here, and I guess I can go over the circle change real quick. It's basically we're taking a 4-seam fastball, but we're throwing it with our middle and ring finger, putting our pinky onto the side and creating our circle with our pointer and thumb. So there's your circle change. Now here's the tip that I'll tell you in terms of how to practice with your changeup, regardless of grip. I would say practice both a 4-seam look and a 2-seam look. It's the same concepts that apply between 4-seam fastball and 2-seam fastball, and this is going to apply for the majority of pitchers. Now, there are some grips out there that this may not work with, but the majority of guys are going to be able to practice both a 4-seam look change and a 2-seam look change. And the more you practice it, the more comfortable you're going to be with it. Again, the same concepts apply with 4 and 2-seam fastballs, and we're always taught to throw 4 and 2-seam fastballs, so why not start teaching yourself how to throw a 4 and 2-seam changeup? And the more you practice it, the more comfortable you're going to be with it, and the more thoughtful you can become within sequences to hitters. If you realize that you are 4-seam heavy against a hitter, then you can throw a 4-seam look changeup against that hitter. If you realize and recognize that you're 2-seam heavy against a guy, then you can throw the 2-seam change to him. Or if one acts different than the other. So a 2-seam change is more than likely going to have a little bit more run than the 4-seam change, and I'm left-handed. If I'm up there versus left on left, I can do a comeback change on the outside part, and hopefully the hitter freezes on it or gives up on it for a strike. Conversely, right on right, same type of idea. So there are different ways that you can attack hitters within sequences if you have both a 4 and 2-seam look changeup. So that's one little recommendation for all pitchers out there, to just practice both. Whether you're only comfortable throwing one within a game, the more you practice it, hopefully eventually you'll end up having 2 different styles of changeups, and you can be very thoughtful with how and purposeful with how you're going to attack hitters within sequences. Now, the changeup itself, how we can have it dip more depth to it, or how we can apply more run to it. If you have a flat changeup, or maybe you can't get that type of separation in velocities between fastball and changeup, hopefully these tips are going to help you out. Now, if you're a guy that struggles with getting some sort of separation with velocity between between your 4-seamer and your changeup, I would highly recommend throwing without ever seeing you, a 2-seam style change. Now, the reason why we throw a two-seam style change here is that it's not going to float in the air with a high spin rate like a four-seamer would, or a four-seam style change-up would. It's going to go two-seam style in the air. Now, two-seam style, the Magnus force in the air really only has two seams to catch in order to allow the ball to continue to lift. So with a two-seam style change, gravity is actually going to play a much bigger role in allowing the baseball to have more depth to it and more run on the arm side. So if you're a guy that throws a four-seam changeup right here and a four-seam fastball, and you don't have that type of disparity that you would like in velocity between the two pitches, I would do two things. I would maybe pronate a little bit more at release. So if this is fastball, this is now changeup at release, and also shift the baseball in my hand. So I'm shifting the axis of the baseball in my hand. So now my middle finger is almost acting off of the inside part of the horseshoe as opposed to the center of the ball. And I shift the axis just a little bit with a slight pronation of the hand. I'm going to be able to have this ball have more horizontal movement to it towards my arm side just by doing those two things. Now, the pronation aspect might take time, but you can easily just shift the baseball right away in order for your ball to have a little bit more horizontal movement to it as it runs to the plate. And if we shift the baseball even slightly, so if my changeup typically travels like a standard four-seamer, if I shift the axis of the baseball slightly, not only is it going to have more run, but it's not going to travel through the air as effectively in order to allow the ball to stay on plane and lift. Gravity is also going to play a bigger role into that than if I were to be truly behind it there. And the biggest tip that I can give hitters with the changeup, more than anything, if you want a good changeup and a changeup that you're going to be able to get outs with to the hitter and get swings and misses or weak contact, is having the ability to throw it just like your fastball. I know it sounds really cliche, but in terms of creating deception to the hitter, if you are completely different delivery-wise and just like energy-wise with the changeup to the hitter is going to pick up on that, and as the game goes on and progresses, they're going to be able to hit that pitch at a much higher rate. So really practice having good intent, purpose, and energy behind your changeup. Practice that off of the field so you become more comfortable with your grips, and trust that the grip is just going to do its thing. It's going to provide you with the -6 miles an hour or so that you're going to need off the changeup, so gravity can have more of an opportunity to push down the baseball, create more depth on the ball. And then also remember, the more we get on the side, the more run we're going to get. So those are really like the two biggest things with the changeup, is allowing gravity to do its thing and allowing axis to also do its thing in the air. The more we tilt the axis, the more run we're going to get on our arm side. So I hope you liked the video. I hope it serves some sort of value to you. Do me a favor, support the channel as always by smashing that subscribe button down bottom, like, share, and comment, and I'll see everybody later.